So what are some of the biggest differences that the Sony A9 brings in comparison to the Sony A7R Mark II? In this video, I'll be talking about my thoughts and I'll be showing some test shots that I took while putting this camera to this full test. Let's get it. Hey, what's up? I'm Omar Eltakrori and this channel is all about helping you take better photos. And so if you're interested in upping your photo game, please subscribe and make sure to hit that bell to be notified when I upload videos, which I try to do weekly. Also, make sure to check out the description below for links to my gear and more things about the A9 that I missed in this video. Also, links to my Instagram, and so you can check out things I'll be working on and things like that. So if you've ever noticed, if you've ever checked out my Instagram or followed me and seen other things that I do, I work with another channel on YouTube called Think Media TV, and it's with Sean Cannell. And a lot of times people send him things to test, review, and try. And pretty cool that Sony reached out and wanted to send him the Sony A9 to test. A lot of the times he's more into like the video side of things, and so he gave me the camera to test out, and it was really cool because he was like, what lenses do you want him to send with it? And so they sent for 2 weeks, the Sony A9, the new camera that is killer, and also they sent the 24-70 G Master 2.8 lens, and then also the 70-200. And so with having it for 2 weeks, I was really excited to test it out with all the lenses they sent and stuff. And so let's just talk about some of those things that I initially thought with the camera. So when the case came, they sent the 2 lenses and the A9, and that was the very first time I was really able to like mess with this camera. And what was cool is they gave us 2 weeks with it. I actually held and kind of saw the camera for what it was worth at NAB, which is a convention here in town that comes every spring, and Sony had a booth. The big thing there was the A9, and so I was able to mess with it for a little bit, but there was a ton of people there, and so actually having it in the comfort of my home and really playing with it, you know, the things that I just noticed right off the bat was just how it felt in your hands. You know, it felt so good, you know, like I love Sony's in general. No matter what camera they make, I'm just so for what they do. There's always like the little things people nag over, but more or less, they definitely took things into consideration, probably in regards to people saying what they wish the other cameras had, like the A7R Mark II or the S2. But you know, they really added so much. They added the record right away. You see the record button, you see the joystick, you see the knob for your drive mode and your focus settings. Things that on my R2 I would actually assign custom buttons to, which I'll share a video on, like what my custom buttons are and my setup for my R for the reasons of why I shoot things. But more or less, it's a lot of focus changing the focus mode and changing the focus settings. But they have both those things here. And I love that they put the back button focus. Again, another thing that I assigned to the custom button on my R2 was the back button focus. And so like on the physical standpoint, just so much better. The dual SD card slots, like the physical alone, it was like, whoa, Sony, you like really took things into consideration in regards to what people wanted, which is really cool. And I would say the biggest thing though, and I'm not gonna take forever on this stuff, but you know, I really wanna get into test footage, was when I went into the menu system, and one thing I really noticed was that star on that menu folder. And so when I went over there, it was just crazy to see that they finally implemented, and this is something I didn't even think for them to actually do, but they implemented a My Menu setting. And what that is it's the ability to create your own menu pages. And so, you know, I think as photographers, videographers, people who use these Sony cameras, and obviously the hate that we get so bad on the freaking menu system, they actually solved an issue that was so big, and the reason why people would stick with Canon and the reason why people stuck with Nikon, but like they created a feature in this camera that I think, and I pray that they would update, do an update, for a firmware update that would apply to all their other cameras. But the ability to put like, you know, I always format my cards, you know, when I shoot videos, I always jump from different frame rates. I also like to change my crop mode, you know, like the AP to shoot in crop mode. There was just so much I love to be able to just put on a page, and it's almost like the menu became like an obsolete thing in the sense that I now could create my own menu. I thought that was huge. When I saw that in this camera, it made me so much more jazzed to use it, and I spent time like thinking about what I did with my R2 and then created that menu before I actually went out to go shoot stuff. And then I would say on a performance base, so because like those were some of the like I guess physical things or like the things that right off the like the box you can see the difference in. And I don't want to spend time talking about the obvious things that people have been talking about before even the camera came out. So I think the other two things that were just like crazy in comparison to R2 were definitely the autofocus, the continuous autofocus, and then the obvious, the 20 frames per second, and the ability to do that in silent shooting mode, as well as no blackout while you take the image. It's just, you know, everything's just live as it happens. And so I was super excited to actually test this out going out. We went out to Huntington Beach. So I took a day trip to California just to test out this camera, and I went with a friend. His name is David. I'll put his Instagram in the description. He's also a local photographer here and does a lot of dope stuff. And we went out and shot surf. I never shot surf before, but I knew that I didn't want to do a traditional, you know, couple engagement sesh or like portrait session with this camera, because I knew the obvious that this camera could do. Like cameras that were less than can do certain things like that. So what I really wanted to test it with was with like high intense sports. I actually initially wanted to do the NBA Summer League, which is here in Vegas, but I missed out on it, and a friend of mine flaked on me, so I didn't want to go alone and forget you. No, I'm just kidding. Really like mess with it. Like I learned that the ability to access the 20 frames per second is to make sure you turn on the electronic shutter mode, and then right off the gate, you know, like I set my focus area wide, put continuous autofocus, and then put it on high drive mode, and boom, I mean, I'm not a fan of being trigger happy, but I think in this instance, I wanted to catch what I wanted to catch, and I also wanted to test those 20 frames per second. And the pictures just came out tack sharp. You know, there were some where it would miss a little bit, but as you can see in these examples, like, man, like I never shot surf before, and so I wanted to glean from my friend. I was like, what are you like looking for when you're shooting surf? And you know, he said like you're just looking for that dramatic move. And so when a surfer is riding a wave, you wait for that move, and in order to like catch that move, you have to anticipate it and take pictures as they're about to make it, so that when they make it, you're getting them. And just right off the bat, I thought it was so crazy that the green squares that track on a person, you know, when I hold down on the autofocus button and the back button autofocus, it would stick on that person. And I was so blown away because number one, I was standing on a pier. Number two, I was like all the way zoomed in at 200, and then on top of that, I was shooting in crop mode a lot of the times. And yet, despite all the color in the water and the mix and the movement going on, it would literally stay on on the surfer as they rode a wave or whatever. And I was so blown away at the images, and you know, like it just really killed it. You know, I think. For that level of shooting. And I mean, I also think about the wedding photographer, you know, wanting to capture moments that I feel like I could have missed out on because it's not necessarily taking it as fast as I'd like to. Like when you say 20 frames per second, there's a huge difference. And you know, I actually held my R2 and this camera side by side, and it's not even a conversation. And so that's definitely something, you know, like the ability to shoot that much, I think it really is cool that it unlocks that with this camera. Is it like $2,000? That's like another conversation. I think this camera is well worth it though. I don't think it's highly overpriced in the sense that yes, it is compared. A lot of people would compare this to the 5D Mark IV, but it really is a camera that compares to the 1DX and also the D5, the Nikon D5, and those cameras are $1,500 to $2,000 more than this. And so if you're showing up and you're shooting stuff and everybody else got this huge camera, like you're gonna have more, not only as much power as them, but more technology than them. And so I definitely think this camera kills in capturing moments. You know, like I think this is a moment capturing camera. If I were to give this camera a title, it would be that, and then also a silent beast. You know, like I think it would be really, really hard to miss moments with this camera if you had all your settings locked in and you know you knew what you were doing. This camera would guarantee shots you would never miss. However, though, you know, I'd still like to say that I'm still a proud owner of my camera. I just got my camera in February and I've used it a lot, but I really want to use the crap out of that A7R II. I'm actually shooting the video on it right now. because I'm still blown away at the images that it produces, you know, like maybe I can't shoot as fast as I can with the A9, and but the autofocus is still killer on the A7R Mark II, and the image quality is just through the roof. You know, I still notice like not a huge difference in it, but like in the dynamic range of the image, you know, like we're talking 24 to 42 megapixels still. I think when people talk about the nature of blowing up my photos on the 42 megapixel camera, that makes sense. But I think something about the camera just being a 42 megapixel camera unlocks a level of quality that a 24 megapixel camera couldn't. And I think, I mean, if I'm wrong in this, you know, call me out, but I was looking actually, I took a picture at 3200 ISO when the sun was setting, and it was pretty much gone, the sun at that point. And here's a comparison. The picture of my brother and his fiance when we went out when he got engaged, this was taken at 3200, and I noticed that at 3200, the grain is a lot more finer on the R2 than it is on the A9. And 3200, I would say, like with these Sonys, they still can go up, very usable images, but the grain is, in the comparison, is still kind of strong on the A9. Nonetheless, you know, it's still killer camera. I mean, if I genuinely had the money without blinking, I would definitely buy the camera, but you know, we're all trying to make it here, you know what I'm saying? We're not all balling off the walls, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, the A9 has so much to offer. I like those two things I mentioned earlier in the video. I really love the placement of the buttons and then the custom menu setting. They made this camera for the person who loves to take photos, and I love taking pictures, and I think maybe one of these days I'll be able to use it on a regular basis, and I look forward to it. But nonetheless, I think there's still so much that, you know, if I'm just hopping from camera to camera, I really want to nail down mine, if that makes sense. I think there's still much to learn about the A7R II, but this camera nonetheless is great for its time. You know, there's already so many videos out there, and I think just my video will just add in with my flair. So I do think that if you were to buy this camera, you would not have to worry about anything. Like this camera alone is, I would say, close to a perfect camera. It has everything you need. For the studio photographer that shoots to go straight into the computer, to the person that's working in journalism and, you know, needs to shoot a press conference or shoot a court hearing and not even make a noise but capture a certain moment or an emotion, you know, it really fits, you know, any type of photographer, especially if like what you do is taking photos, you know, like this camera kills. All that to say, next time I upgrade, I won't settle for anything less than what the A9 offers. I know by the time I upgrade, it most likely will be, I don't know, there'll be some more new Sony cameras, and so I'll be checking that out. But I still want to like dive into my A7R Mark II and do more videos about how to use it to its full potential. But question for you guys, what tip videos would you like me to share on in regards to photography, using Sonys? Anything, just make sure you put it in the comment section below. I'd love to make videos that will help you. And thanks so much for checking out this video. If you found any value, make sure to hit that like button. Also to subscribe if you want to see all the new content I'll be posting, and follow me on Instagram. That's where you can see what I'm working on and I'm posting on there. If you have any questions or anything, hit me up. I'll be happy to answer them, but appreciate you checking out the video. I'll see you in the next video, and just keep doing damage, yo.